There are literally dozens of PKM apps out there, and every one of them is promising that they're going to revolutionize the way that you work and make you more productive and whatever. And the reality is that they might, but it's actually sticking with something that is the best practice. And I've been sticking with Logseq now for nearly 5 years. And that's not because I haven't tried other apps and not because I don't use other apps as well. You'll see on my channel that I use Tana. There's a whole bunch of tutorials, a whole course on that even. But I still keep coming back to Logseq and I use them in conjunction. So in this video, I'm going to show why I still use Logseq, why I still like it, and some of the things that it provides me, and also just encourage you to stick with things. And yeah, we are going to go on a couple of different tangents. I've already recorded the video. I thought about splitting it in two, but I'm just going to provide timestamps. Feedback is appreciated on if you would like shorter videos or longer videos. I am trying to create more content for this channel now, picking up the energy again. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the other side. So a quick outline of the video. I'm going to look at why I still stick with Logseq, some of the pain points that I have with Logseq, what's happening to Logseq, and then some of my workflow changes. So feel free to jump around, whichever one floats your boat. And the first question that I'm going to get into is why I still stick with Logseq, because there are other options and I use these other options and people get confused with this. For me, the first thing is that there's a very clear differentiation of workflows. I use Logseq for knowledge management and not for project management. Now, to be clear, it can do both. But as I've said in other places, if you're trying to do complex project management in Logseq, you're sort of jerry-rigging these different solutions. In the grand scheme of things, it's actually all about offloading working memory and having a place to think. But there's different components that are much more helpful in Tana, for instance, for project management. So for instance, the Google Calendar integration, the fact that I have super tags to refer information up. And I'm going to show you an example of this now. Just to be clear, it's also not either or. So I've been using Logseq since 2020 and Tana since 2022. And now I've got this like good bifurcation of roles and like what goes where. I know exactly what I need to be doing. And if somehow I miss something, I can just search in the other app. It's not like it's a train smash, but for the most part, it's very easy. Okay, so yeah, just to point you, I've also created a whole bunch of Tana tutorials. You'll see that on the channel. I was thinking, oh, should I mix these things up? Should I make one channel for Tana? Should I make one channel for Logseq? And I tried to do that, but actually it didn't make sense because I use both of them. And yeah, now I'm not like very clear on Logseq or very clear on Tana potentially, but I use both of them and you can too. Anyway, so just looking at the calendar plugin there, you can see here's for March, February, January, all of those days I'm working in Logseq. And I'm just going to go over to Tana now because the example here is how this video script lives in Logseq, but the project management for what happens in Tana. So if I go to the Tana interface, so these are all my other projects, like work projects and stuff that I'm working on, but I've got these things that are pinned on the left of screen here, and current videos is one of them. And if I just collapse all of these, this video is actually how I've changed the way I work in Logseq. And if I just click over there, you can see that I got the Logseq link, so I can quickly go to it. And I know this, I've seen criticisms of YouTubers or creators who use the app to manage their projects on how they manage YouTube. And that's not a really good real world example. That's why I'm working on this project management in Tana update, because the videos are small components of the things that I'm managing over here. So it's not either or. And if I just go to my today node, there won't be anything in there, but I can also just show you, if I click on the calendar there, all the nodes, judging by the number of, or the size of the blue around it, have all been used. The second thing over there is the differentiation between pages and blocks. And I've got an introductory course on Logseq from a long time ago, and that still holds true for me, that like I like having to elevate something to a page if necessary, but if not, it must just live as a block. And to be able to reference that information as well is very useful for me. Anyways, so this is the second point, seeing reference information in the outline format just gives me a higher density of information. So I'm going to use the example of curiosity. So the cool thing here is that I can just scroll through these linked references over here to find different highlights. So it's very easy to see that information. Now, if that was in, for instance, let me go to this Ross Anderson person over here, I can see that there's an article that I imported, and I'm going to get to this later, but that is a page, and it's not showing me those blocks that are listed underneath there. I have to then go and click into that page to find that information. which is not a good workflow for me. I like to be able to see it at this like high information density and just be able to scroll through also in reverse chronological order. The other cool thing about this outline is that I can filter it. So if I just filter link references here, for instance, I've actually checked this already. Let's say therapy, what happened or how did curiosity come up in therapy? Let me just close that page over there. Cool. Efficiency and optimization is a defense mechanism against outbursts. Okay, how would you fuzzy that? We had a conversation around that. How can I be more curious about something? Anyways, 2021, long time ago, but cool to be able to see that information and filter it very quickly without having to go and navigate into the pages. The next point over here is markdown editing. And I've spoken about the ease of, or the benefits of extensibility, like the fact that I can use these notes in Obsidian. I can, they'll live forever essentially because it's about the file format, not the application. And that's actually one of Obsidian's mottos, but I just can't do the same things that I'm doing in Logseq in Obsidian. Another cool thing about markdown editing is a very easy differentiation between what's mine and what's not mine. And I'm going to show you an example here of where these two things come to light. If I look at when breath becomes air, so this is my notes from this book, but I can't see who wrote this. Well, I know that I didn't write this, but what I want to do here is then I'll then say open with default app, and it's going to open in VS Code. And then I'll just say Control Shift H. Wait, let me just say, I want to replace the first line over there. I want to replace that with that little sign there, the greater than sign, which if I just say Control A, Enter, okay, replace the occurrences. Cool. And if I go back to Logseq, you can see there that, okay, and again, I'm not a programmer, so there's probably better ways of doing this. All of these quotes are actually from the author. Okay, now this isn't a perfect thing that I'm doing here because I actually will then go and say, I wrote that. And yeah, this was something I wrote. Cool. What's the point here? The point is that I can see when something is not my own thinking or when it's, a quote from someone else. And it's very nice to be able to differentiate that. And you'll see there, if I go back to where I was and I look at, for instance, this thing on curiosity, and let me unfilter that. This is all Henrik's thinking. But then at some points, there we go. I have taken an observation on it, and that's my own thinking. And it's nice to be able to, when I'm working on a piece or whatever, very quickly see what someone else's and what's my own, and then to build on what someone else has written. Another thing which I really like about Logseq is this long form writing experience. And I call it the vibe test because I don't really have a better name for it, but I just like the way that writing works for me in Logseq and being able to drag and drop blocks and move things around in an outliner form. And another interesting thing, which might not make a lot of sense, but it's this non-logical outliner option. So typically in an outliner, if I was to unindent that, it would supposed to go to the bottom over there, but it doesn't. And I like that. You can turn that on and off and then tab that out there. So this is like a simple little thing, but it helps me in my own writing experience. Now, there's lots of other reasons that I could write about sticking for Logseq, but these are things that came up for me as I was doing the script. Okay, what are some of my pain points with Logseq? The mobile experience is still pretty terrible. And I have this image over here, which is, I've referenced that a lot when talking about AI and the cycle of AI, but trying to find this image on my phone, I first have to wait for the app to load. I then have to push search. I'm using Android, maybe Apple or iOS is better. And then I have to filter it, and it's not very quick. So yeah, the mobile experience, if you're trying to do quick capture in Logseq, not my recommendation. So that is a bit of a pain point. The lack of a robust calendar integration. There are workarounds for this though. You can use the agenda plugin, but I like using something that just works out the box. And I know someone has been commenting, zoom in on your thing. Sorry, I don't have a video editor. If you know of a good way to zoom in on these things and without having to go backwards and forwards, please shout. But for the moment, I'm just doing this part-time or on the side. And the final point here, the UI can still feel a little bit limiting. So if I want to open this page, okay, let me just say when breath becomes air, and I'm going to say Shift Enter to open it up there on the right. And ideally, what used to happen is I would click there and it would open that up on the left-hand side, and I should be able to say open as page, but it doesn't open as a page there. So little things like that. It's not perfect, but yeah, I've learned to live with it. Now the question that might be on everyone's lips: what is happening to Logseq? There have been no updates, and that is kind of true. If I look at the releases, the last beta testing release was April 23, 2024. So that's almost a year ago. And before that, they were doing a monthly release. So there's March 28th and then there's February 29th. And there's been no releases since then. But if you look at the insights, there has been, let's go to a month, there's been lots of activity. So lots of closed issues. You can see Tencent is working hard, Cloudwalker there. These are some of the core Logseq team. So there is work that's been done on the app, and that is all being done on the database version. So for those of you who haven't heard, there is a new version of Logseq that is being developed, and that is following this object-based note-taking approach. So they are building, and it's partly inspired by Tana. Essentially, it's another way to organize your information, and it's about using what Tana calls super tags, but is a way of thinking in terms of classes of information. So it's like saying you have these different databases, and it's very easy to put information into those databases using what Tana calls super tags. So there are some differences in how this is applied. Everything will become a node. It won't be this differentiation between pages and blocks, although there's still things that are in development, and I can't really speak to this. But yeah, I think it's basically another app, if I'm honest. Like, it's using SQLite as a database, and they are speaking about having it being able to work on your markdown files as well, but I don't know. And at some point, I imagine that I'll have to update the course, because I've said, lifetime access to people who have bought it, but I don't know if it's another app or not. So don't hold me to it. I might do an update and then just say, if you want to get the extra version, I know you've already paid, but please, this is another app, and I had to do a lot more work on this. So we'll have to see about that. Anyways, moment of silence for tags, because I like to use CSS to color my tags in this way, like it is in Obsidian, but that will now fall away because the super tag, or the hashtag, is being used to denote things that are elevated to objects. Anyways, there's probably a lot of potential for confusion here. If this sounds interesting to you, go check out the Tana videos. What is the status though? So this is from Ramses, who's the community manager at the beginning of March. Logseq DB is far from finished, so any video now that's created could be outdated in a few weeks. And they are not committing to a timeline for when this will be available. So I really don't know. And it's a small team working on Logseq, and it's unclear when this will be finished. The last point in that though is that this last release, I should actually just put there 10.9 or 0.10.9 so that people can see it, is very stable for me, and I'm very happy with its performance, and that is reassuring, because whatever happens to Logseq, I know that I can always go back to this version and use it to my heart's content. So yeah, thanks for that. I want to quickly look at some workflow changes that I have been making in my own workspace. So taking notes on articles. Unfortunately, Omnivore closed down as a business, so I moved to Readwise. So Readwise is another read it later app, and it's excellent. It really is good. The only thing that I don't like is the way that it imports files into Logseq. So I'm just going to say Control-K Readwise import so that you can see what I mean. There we go. So these are Readwise imports that I've processed. Anything that's in a date has been processed. And that's nice because I can see this like reverse chronological order. But now, back to that point, there are blocks underneath here that I want to be able to access, but that I don't see very quickly because it has been brought in as a page. So if I just shift click there so I retain it, I'm going to show what I've been doing, which is very laborious, but hey, it works for me. And I'm just going to say Alt-Shift-J, whoopsie, Alt-Shift-J, and then literally copy all of that, cut it, and then paste it over here underneath the thing. And then I'll just say, remove that title over there. And there we go, the grades in slopification. And then I'll just shift tab that over there. And now when I go, and now I'll delete this page. Very laborious. I know if you have a better way of doing this, please let me know. But what that means is that I can now see those passages underneath there very quickly without having to go and actually enter the page. And then when I have a tag, it will show up there. So yeah, lots of little changes around how that's being done. I'm actually just going to my Readwise settings here because I need to remove this status over here. That's one of the things that I'm trying to get rid of. And just something I also want to add is that I want tags to be in there. So even if there aren't any document tags, so that I can add them. So I'm going to say there we go. So those are my Readwise settings. And yeah, very helpful little app. Love it. Have a look. I've got an affiliate link below if you want to check it out. Essentially what that would do now is I would say cool, and then shift enter there, tags, and this was about AI and maybe civilization or something. Okay, doesn't really matter. Civilization, that's strange. I don't have one about civilization. I realize that I'm trying to rush this, but let me just go here and do what I would normally do, which would be JJC, which is a text expander for content. And then I would also, I don't really need that passages thing over there, but let's just say shift tab over there and delete that. And that means that I'm going to change this as I go to have no highlights header. Leave blank to omit the header. Cool. So that means that for the next article that I import, I will have the things that I want. As I'm recording this video, I realize I'm like putting a lot in here, and this is back to my old style of just being like everywhere. If you want a specific video on this, let me know and I'll record it. Just to show another way of doing this that is, quite something that I like a lot. You would have seen that I interviewed Henrik Carlson on the channel, and I love his writing. So yeah, hypothetically is something from this piece that I want to get into my workspace. I don't always go through Readwise. It's just one of the options, or Reader and Readwise. And I've got this little plugin called Copy Tab Title URL, which I've configured to just copy that. And then when I go into Logseq, I enter it there, and I just say producer Henrik Carlson, and then I'll say articles, input articles, and I will then, whatever the tag was, let's say, I want to talk about writing, and copy that, paste it in here with a greater than sign to show it as markdown, and then say tags writing. Okay. So that's a little bit laborious, admittedly, but as I spoke about in the previous video, there's something about having that friction which actually makes me take stock and think about it. And yeah, I like it. I used to try and like minimize all the friction, but yeah, having all these different options is very valuable. And as I've said here, why is this important for me? I've spoken a little bit about this before, but the reverse chronology, when I go and say, okay, cool, let's look at my writing page here. So I've got these tags which are tagged with writing, pages tagged with writing, but I've also got these pieces of content that I can then filter through. And yeah, I really like having all of that information available over there, seeing the blocks beneath it in reverse chronology. Just the example here of not cluttering up the search. The example of friend is not a good one. I'm just going to say maybe I'm looking for something about slowing down. This is still slowing down. And this is an article that was imported from Readwise, but it's really not what I'm looking for. So I don't want that to show up. If it was a book, it's okay. But like if it's a silly article, then no, I don't want to clutter up my search. Anyways, and then the graph view, I don't look at the graph view anymore, but initially having the different nodes be pages in the graph view was like super cool for me. But then when everything was a page, it would clutter that up. So it might be important for you still to clean that up, and that's just another reason. The next point over here is removing dependency on namespaces. I still use namespaces, but I don't use them nearly as much as I used to. I used to have this one, for instance, spectrums. If I say shift click over there and I look over here, these are all the spectrums that I would be talking about. But instead of doing that, I'm just making them a single thing, like being versus becoming, and then having this as like a map of content theoretically of different things that I'm speaking about. But even this is probably not very necessary. Anyways, I removed the scratch pads. So I used to put everything as like scratchpad /ideas or scratchpad /spirituality. Instead, I just have like these MOCs. So if you just see on the left over here, I have an MOC for spirituality, MOC for social, and these are my notes that then branch off when I'm talking about different things. I guess the point here is don't use namespaces for structuring things so much, especially, well, that's my way of doing it. You can do whatever you want, but I use it for ease of retrieval and typing and differentiation. So for instance, if I went for therapy with someone, you've seen that already in my notes, therapy with whoever. That just neatens things up, makes it easier to refactor my notes if necessary. And that's what I'm doing these days. I'm just cleaning up things as I go. And it's the little things that really make a difference. So that status to process tag, I don't actually ever look at that. So why do I need it? And that's why I was removing it from the Readwise thing. And I didn't try and make it perfect before this video because, as I say, it's all in the process. I've stopped using the observation tag. Really, I've realized that like the observation tag was when I brought something in and I was like, oh, I have this thought about it. What I'll do is I'll just put any tag over there that feels relevant in the moment and just trust that if I need to find it, I will. It's like more of a serendipitous thing, not like I have to be sure that I will find this thing exactly. Just completely removing that like pressure of tagging things. I still use fleeting, but as I said, I'm just more comfortable tagging something any which way and seeing if it'll come up again. Fleeting is just like I really don't want to think about like what this might, or I have no bandwidth to think about a good tag at the moment. Let me use that there. Okay, then letting go of the level of structure that I previously used. So if you go and look at this article over here, I went into a lot of efforts to go and structure this. And what is a question? What is an answer? And this was on the basis of courses and work that I'd done in like personal knowledge management and writing. And you know what? This was very good as an exercise. And it's still in the course, that whole exercise that I went through this. And trust me, it helped me. And the examples from this thing about like Yahoo versus Google, they still resonate with me. But this was a lot of work that is good for the learning process, but that I cannot see as being sustainable. So I don't do that sort of thing anymore. I just am very light in how I work through materials because it's not sustainable to go and do this for everything or to like, manage every podcast like this, which is something I was trying to do. And that's why I'm removing this like status to process thing, because everything is to process. Like everything is an iteration. Everything is working upon itself. It's like these loops of thought. Okay, anyways, getting philosophical. So to wrap this up, I think there's a few points to note here. Know what you want to achieve. Like, are you trying to do knowledge management or complex project management? And find the right app that works for you. Maybe it's not Logseq, maybe it's Tana, maybe it's something else, maybe it's Notion. Just know what the things can do and how they can work for you. And also, maybe you're not someone who likes setting things up yourself. That's a real thing, and you should go with something that is really out the box. The second point is trusting your gut. Just like if a thing vibes with you and you know how to work with it, go for it. Just have fun. Like, it's not about finding the perfect app. There's no perfect app. I've made a whole video on that. It's all about your workflows that support your work. And then the final thing is sticking with something. Like really, like if you do stick with something and you really master it, and that's the whole thing about Logseq mastery, is that it becomes second nature and you don't have to think about these things anymore. Like, how do I do this? Or can this do this for me? It's like, you know what you need to do. And if you know that the app can't do it, great, move on to something else. But for me, Logseq ticks so many boxes, and yeah, I'm still really enjoying working with it. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Let me know if you want more detailed things on the Readwise integration or anything else maybe, and I'll see if I can work that in. Have a great day.